start that? Yes, I did. Right. The log being displayed in the Pung gadget. The Pung gadget is no longer really a Pung gadget, is it? It's the render viewer gadget. It's looking for things to do with the render more and more, and will do more so, I think, when I consider what the log might display and what I might put in the log. If there's going to be a height distribution thing, maybe I should be interpreting that as a graph. Don't know. Anyway, so different things might be displayed in the log. For the time being, though, what I want is a scrolling list of the log lines. Now, my GUI, it's got big gaps. One of them is yeah, like a text box. I can do labels, I can do string fields. But yeah, I've always just used workarounds and always thought to myself, I will make a text box when a text box becomes essential, and it is never, because actually a table, in this case a table is what I'm going to use, I think, and a table with a single column provides a list of lines with as many rows as I want, and that's what I'll use. The main thing that's stopping me just firing in is that I am very keen to have the log displayed in the same manner as these buttons. I like the way this distinguishes this state of affairs from the other, the way that they're see-through to indicate that this is all about what's behind them more than them themselves. That sort of thing. And I like them. It'd be nice if more things could look like that. So, given the faff that I had getting these buttons to look like this, how am I going to make it that my table of log lines looks the same? For one thing, I will have an easier time because I have learned what I learned about the instantiators, the constructors, doing this, however I decide to do it. But what are my options? Because the thing that would make a consistent set of gadgets that looked like this would be for me to define a set of costumes, and I think that that is what I'm going to do, and that will mean altering the definition of these buttons, which gave me such misery 2 or 3 days ago. So I hope I'm not just introducing a whole bunch more for myself by saying I'm getting back into it, but we'll see. Being able to display the log information, even insofar as it goes sending it to the folder of the created image, is really so beneficial, you know. I mean, this doesn't look like much, but it is pretty nice actually. I like this render, and it was made easy because I was able to do a couple of renders and look quickly at the log information, see the sort of distributions, and make a good decision about where to set the thresholds in the gradient render draw mode. So the more accessible that information, the better. And the same will be true of the extra information, you know, the more detailed distribution information, and I think the height map view. I just think it'd be a very useful, how do I put it? Just very useful ways to interpret what the output is in such a way that better renders can be made. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked thinking about why it is that the logs are so important. These two are based on effectively the same thing. I wish I had a view log button. Anyway, I want one now. How do I do it? I think I make costumes. It's been ages since I thought about making costumes. I've become reliant on, you know, the method that I have. or the setup that I have, and tweaking it is easier than adding big sections to it, because, you know, my skinning for my GUI, I like it, to be fair. And no, I don't. I like some bits of it. Other bits of it are highly irrational and wasteful, and were based on speculated needs, which turned out to be false. And also based on limitations of the original monkey. Not serious limitations, but without function pointers, I had to find workarounds to certain... I don't think I found the best workarounds, but ways to indicate, for example, the function to use to draw a rectangle. This is not using a costume, this is just drawing a rectangle to the screen at the moment it comes time to draw this gadget. These gadgets. The skin class, it's not really a class, but the skin method allows you to determine a function to draw a rectangle, and that can allow the drawing of the little squares. But also, you know, if you make that function that draws your rectangle just draw a rectangle, then you just get a rectangle. So I just need to make a set of skins that says this set of skin is basically a transparent grey rectangle, and it has a set of, you know, alternative definitions for when the gadget's covered or being pressed. I don't like that though at all. Those gadgets are not working as intended. That's an important thing, and I want to check it right now. Okay, so it's in response, I'm looking. Right. That's really dodgy. Oh, no. Load, yeah. Released on means this gadget has been pressed and released, and the mouse pointer is still within the gadget. You know, it's a mouthful, like loads of things I did. I thought the name made sense at the time. It's to draw a distinction between being released off. So, in released off, the mouse moved into the gadget, the left mouse button was pressed down, the mouse moved out of the gadget, then the left mouse button was released, which I use for dragging and dropping string sections between string fields, and I would use in any drag and drop situation. Released on should mean so in any of these cases it's like it just is not actually working quite right, and I am sort of annoyed about it. And I'm going to have a quick look at GUI and a quick look at rect button and a quick look at it has no work, it doesn't do anything. My button, I suppose, doesn't even have a work. I expect button base has a work. There's piles of stuff, but it's just about toggling. Why would this be spoiling the functioning of the buttons? This is a bit, it's a bit annoying, to be fair, because I am just not sure about it. I feel sure that what I'm doing should be just making it impossible. Okay, that worked. Why is it seeming to work? If I open this, Okay, maybe I'm just getting confused. It should only activate at release on. Okay, well, it seems to be working, right. I'll come back. Getting distracted, and happily distracted, because the alternative is thinking again about GUI skins, which is a horrible thing. Not actually, I probably hardly have to think about GUI skins, really. Because I already have this rectangle skin that just draws a simple rectangle of the main color. What I need to think about is GUI classes, about costume definitions. I've just got normal, brightest, in normal, in brightest. Where's my, oh, normal, bright, brightest, inactive, in normal, in bright, in brightest, in inactive. Yeah, okay. Wow. Well, some things I perceive as problems with this. When I look at the GUI, and when I look at my button, the way the button works is that actually rect button probably works. Oh, of course it works differently. Rect button just, where am I? Yeah, finish draw. Relies on this state thing to determine this color, then draws a rectangle of that color, and then draws the text on top. This bit that draws the rectangular colour is the bit that would be done by the costume under normal circumstances. My button, like, this is the finished draw of the button base. It draws the text, and if there's an icon, it draws the icon. Paying attention to whether or not the icon colour flag is something that's true. It does make a distinction. Like, there is a difference to the way they're drawn. Either they're drawn so-called white, which really just means drawn their natural colour, or they're drawn according to the font colour of the current costume. Now, the costume for the current state, let's say. But that's all that finish draw does for the button, draw the text and the icon. The bit about the graphic that makes up the button's shape is handled by the button's costumes. And the button's costumes, first off, are set in setup. Setup has extra parameters like left, right, top, bottom borders and C costume. If you don't pass anything into C costume, it gets the default costume, which is normal. I define these things inside a function called generate defaults down there, which I'll have to go to in a moment. But these, so when I pass a costume to setup, it sets every costume associated, all of the costume references for the new button, to whatever I pass. By default, it just gets the default normal skin, which is what I want. But there are some exceptions. I don't want every state costume. Like a costume has the gadget, the button in this case, has a costume reference for every state. And when I pass one in, or go with the default, all of the states get set. Which means that by default, a gadget doesn't do anything when you roll the mouse over it, or doesn't animate when you click the mouse down. Which is fair enough, because loads of gadgets are just windows and panels. But the button I want to light up when it's covered. I want it to go brightest when it's pressed. And normal is this is what I've elected. It's a bit strange. So it's like it lights up when you roll over it. It gets pressed in and goes bright for a moment when you press it. But from then on, when you're holding it, it's just normal. In. I should have a little look at one of my buttons and just show that that is what it's doing. And see if I can even see the single frame of brightness that there supposedly is. No. Because it goes from being bright to brightest for one frame, so it's not even a high contrast change. But anyway, that's what makes the buttons change shape and everything. So the point is I need to make a couple of new costumes. One of which is... well, a couple of new costumes, and I also have to think about how... something I might do that you could just do to any gadget. Like, let's say... at the moment there is a set all costumes method on a gadget. So if I wanted to make all of the costumes in any individual gadget or anything, something, then I can. But the one thing I'm interested in just now is my table view. Look at all its fields, and it also extends virtual panel. And virtual panel has a fair few of its own. So, man. Yeah, and I had to change all these zones to panels at some point and make them clear panels. Yeah, panel clear is a new special type of panel because the zones are now non-sensitive. Man, I had some problems. But anyhow, sorted now. What I'm curious about is new, setup virtual panel, all this stuff. What happens in setup virtual panel? A virtual panel is by nature blank. Okay, so that's a thing. What it means is that the table heading zone, end panel, right, title zone is part of the virtual panel. The end panel align sides, set rows, palette, color, normal, color, covered color selection, right, okay. Set paper color, yeah, okay. So, tables, by their nature, end up with the color sheet, which is just as it sounds, it's sheet, and it's used in string fields, tables. Let me have a quick look at. This is probably going to be a pretty horrible one. Finish draw for tables, yeah. Well, it's not too bad actually. But the main thing is, first off, it draws something called paper color. Where was new? You know, set paper color, right? So I've got a set paper color thing. Although that's interesting, that might be all it takes. Set paper color. Yeah, and all it does is that. Man, oh man, I need to go through this. This is all original Monkey code, and for all I can remember, maybe Monkey did have properties, but I was just too much of a Luddite or whatever at the time, moving over and not having had properties before. I never used them, and just... but this would look like a much nicer class with things like just paper color as a property. And it's a kind of pointless thing as well. I'm calling that from within a new I hadn't made paper color like. Oh, anyway. I kind of don't mind having these things. Anyway. Well, this is not ideal. Because really, yeah, what I'm sort of asking of this is that it just behaves totally differently. Yeah, it's one thing to reskin the GUI. It's one thing to say, it's another thing to say to the GUI, oh, handle these multiple skins. Uh, Take these gadgets and have them behave differently, even within a single skin. Mm, you know, what are you gonna do? I could set the paper color, like specifically, and that would go a long way. But I suppose one of the one of the things about the nature of the table is that you end up being able to select things. A thing I could do is maybe add another, say, select none. Man, let me have a quick look at the work. I fear to, but okay, work's not there at all. It's because it's all done inside response. I will wager. Let's have a little look at response. That's pretty neat for what it does. Now there must be a bit, yeah, this is the sub-gadget thing, which really isn't great. I feel like it probably isn't necessary. I think the sub-gadget system that I had was to do with the original. I feel like I'm getting sidetracked here, but I'm not exactly. It's good for me to remind myself how these things work a bit. But I do have to think, how far do I want to go? Man, if viewport mouse over and rows is greater than 0, we're doing something. X equals int minus 1. Okay, find switch column. If you're in an actual column. Y goes. Okay, yeah, find the Y. Got ya. Find which Y cell you're in, and then find the cell number. Find your covered row and covered column, right, for use in the following things. Where the heck am I defining T? Here, just saying it's a 0. If I know me in the past and me now, T means target. Right, yeah. If it's been pressed, if you're on select one, set selected, select many. If you've got something selected, unselect it. Otherwise, select it. Current action, action select. What? Select mixed, keyboard down, left controller, keyboard down, right control. Okay, yeah. Select and unselect, clear selected. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's the logic of it. If you've pressed, You're in mixed, you're not on control, clears the selected and selects whatever the target is. And says action none. I can't remember what the action bit's for. Okay, oh yeah, you can drag. Yeah. Yeah, you can drag to select and drag to unselect. Okay, okay, okay. And then when it comes to drawing, that's when those things come into action again. Left to right, top to bottom. For all the selected rows, colour them in. For all the selected columns and cells, colour them in. And then, yeah, highlight the covered columns as well. This is the bit where actually, if you're selecting none, that's the answer, isn't it? It's not so much about, God, I do remember building this. And actually it's not nearly as bad. My memory of it was that it was really horrible, but actually it's fairly neat. Selecting rows, columns, cells, and this just like by using selected and select and unselect. Set selected, yeah, one, okay, yeah. Wow, yeah. Selected, selecting. If selected, selecting. What on earth is selecting? Okay, yeah, it's rows, columns, or cells. My goodness. Okay, yeah, I'm just, it's like a reverie or something, whatever the word is. Okay, so the thing I need to do though is to think about how I slightly modify this such that it can be used better as just a list of entries. Can I set the text color? No, but that's not the way it works. When you create the table, you set the cells, and every individual cell is just a gadget. Theoretically, I mean, you can put a table in a table, but I'm not sure I believe that. I remember when I was building it, I was thinking, yeah, I could put a table in a table. Don't know what's going to happen with this weird sub-gadget palaver, which does work, but is ugly. The main thing is I just set each cell to be a left justified label with white text. Then I set the paper color of this table to be whatever I please. The same color as the backdrop of my rect button. The rect button default color. Let me think for a sec. Is that an okay thing to just do? Well, you know, it's what I'm going to give a go. 29 minutes of just mulling like crazy. And the results of my mulling is that just before I call this a day of pretty good mulling, I decide select one, many or mixed, or rows, columns or cells, none, select, unselect, color normal, color selected, color covered. Okay, so I need, let me first look again quickly at finish draw. As long as there's nothing selected, then yeah, this each and selected should all be meaningless. And this is the thing, as long as I have a selecting none, then there should be no highlight shown. I actually remember another problem with this. Oh me, yeah. What is the other problem with it? The other problem with it is the slider bar. Because the slider bar as well is drawn from the costume definitions. And it uses a costume definition to draw its box. So, to make this look good, this is really what I'm saying. I need to modify not only the table view, but I need to modify the slider bar such that it's fairly easy to... Let me think. I want to one more time look back at response and see what happens if I... Yeah, t equals 0 just now. Right, so according to this logic, even if I have a selecting none mode, I actually need to also have a select none select mode. I've got selecting and select mode. So yeah, I need none and I need select none. These are all ints, which is handy. So I can just say one thing, which is const, which is select none int, which equals -1. And that can apply to rows, to select one, select many, select mixed, and rows, columns, and cells. And, you know, one of the reasons I don't like this much is that it kind of totally disregards all of the selected things so far. Like, clear selected. I think I should be calling clear selected whenever you cell selected XY. Interesting. If selected cells, find node. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, if I think I should be clearing selected whenever I what on earth, whenever I do one of these things. Clear selected. And yeah, is that right? Yeah. It'll try and transpose one set of selections onto another, otherwise. Now, here's another question. I can't just make... I think it has to be that God, it's frustrating, to be honest. Because in a way I want to retain the like the selecting information. I want to, even if I say you're selecting nothing, am I saying you're selecting neither set? I suppose I can always just add another little check. I hate these sorts of bits of logic because I just know that yeah, I could do it many ways. Who's to say which is better? And I'm already at 35 minutes, and I do have to go and cook soon. So I think that I'm getting distracted and confused. I can response here after this. I can say if selecting is greater than -1, and then just that's it. There is no covering, there's no nothing. And then you're still in the same select mode when you come out. No, no, it's no good to do that. I am going to just have to build a logic in here, I think. Someone is being in touch with me. Right, I am going to have to go quite soon, so I am going to elect that you're selecting rows, columns, cells, or none. If selecting is greater than select none, I think that's end. Okay. And so what I also want is select none. And that means selecting equals select. That should probably just be, because then that's more in keeping with the select mode notation, so I will change that. Nothing, selecting nothing. Yeah, fine, that'll do. And also clear selected. Yeah, may as well. Inside response, nothing, and nothing, and it actually belongs here. So now a table view could select nothing. That is very little that I've done, but I am still going to leave it there because it's not bad. I've had to think about it. The thing that I'm going to do is I am going to go into my slider, and I'm pretty sure that slider is slider and slider box. Right, okay. Well, I'll investigate more about how to make the slider look more how I want it next time.